start.
Okay, good. We're going to start with our sponsor for the month, Duvi and Tehillah Catcher, who is sponsoring our Daf Yomi for this month for a schus of a refuah shlema for Ephraim ben Shifra, and Daf Yomi for the week is being sponsored by Brian and Michelle Schiffman, Le'ilui Nishmas Shaya ben Yosef, Mr. Charles Schiffman, who is Brian's grandfather. Thank you so much to our sponsors. We really appreciate it. Anybody interested in sponsoring, of course, can be in contact with us through our WhatsApp chat or by contacting the Kahal Yereim Daf Yomi Society, however we run that. Says the Mishnah, which is in the middle of the page of Chaf Beis Amud Aleph. Ein rochvin al suso. Other things that we do in order to honor the kings, we don't ride on his horse. Vein yoshvin al kiso, and we don't sit on his chair. Vein mishtamshin bisharvito. We also do not use his scepter. Vein rono sokeshu mistaper. We never look at him while he's getting a haircut. That is not a respectful thing. Velokeshu arum, or while he is not dressed. Velokeshu bebeis hamerchotz, or when he's in the bathhouse. Shenamar, as the pasuk says, Som tasim alecha melech. You should place the king upon you. Shetehei emaso alecha, that his fear and awe should be upon you. Says the Gemara in Rabbi Yaakov and Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yaakov said in Rabbi Yochanan, Avishag muteres l'shlomo. Now, Avishag, at the end of David HaMelech's life when he was old, had trouble maintaining his body warmth. And so therefore they were worried about him. So they decided what we need to do is we need to get him a lady who's going to keep him warm and take care of him. Mm-hmm. So we're going to get Avishag Hashunamis. That was the person that they were going to get for him. And Avishag is the nurse who's going to take care of him. So Avishag was muteres, was permissible to Shlomo to marry, Vasur l'Adonia, but prohibited for Adonia to marry.
What's the reason?
As we're going to see. Muteres l'Shlomo de Melechaya. Why would she be permissible to Shlomo? Because he became the king. He was the rightful king, and Melech mishtamish bisharvito shel Melech. And a king can use the scepter of the previous king. And so since she was the one who served David, Shlomo, who became the king, was able to also marry her. But we're going to see David HaMelech did not marry Avishag, and that was important because if David HaMelech had in fact married Avishag, then Shlomo wouldn't have been able to marry her for another reason, because you cannot marry your father's ex-wife. Right? So David being his father, Shlomo wouldn't have been able to marry. So David does not marry Avishag, as we're going to see. But nevertheless, it wasn't disrespectful if Shlomo would have married, because David, even though he didn't marry, did utilize the services of Avishag, and so it was disrespectful for Adonia to marry her. Okay? Vasur l'Adonia dehedyot, who he was a regular non-king character, even though Adonia was another one of David's sons, and he tried to seize the throne, but he wasn't able to. Avishag Maihi. What is the circumstance with Avishag?
Because the crown had this special thing on the side.
That was the thing we knew, that he was unable to wear the crown. Who was that? That was not Adonia that was talking about. That was maybe that was Adonia, right? That was Adonia also, right?
So this is Captain Obvious. This is just not just body warmth, right? This is
body warmth. Yes,
that's it. Not others.
We're going to see. We're going to see exactly what David HaMelech refused and accepted. Okay. Mm-hmm. So Tichsiv, the pasuk says, here's the story. Hamelch David zakin baba yomim. The king David was old, getting on in days. Vayomru lo avadav, and his servant said to him, Yivakshu, let's seek out a woman who's going to be able to lie with him and be able to keep him warm. Uksiv, vayivakshu yafa. So they went searching, and they decided, you have to be able to take care of the king. So let's get a nice looking lady. Uksiv, and it says, v'hana'ara yafa ad me'od. She was very good looking. Vatila melech sochenes v'tisharsehu. So she was the one who took care of him. She served him and took care of him.
Amra. I say the king would be dangerous for some people.
What? What's dangerous?
You think she was a nice person.
So we're going to see that would be dangerous for many people, right? Obviously, we're going to wind up with the potential of Averos happening here. So Amra, she said, Ninsabon, let's get married. Right? That's going to make this much, much simpler. Amar law, he said to her, Asirasli, you are prohibited to me. Cannot get married. Why? Amra le, Chosrei leganva. So sorry. So he says, why is she usher? Because we said that a king can't have more than 18 wives. David already had 18 wives, could not marry her. Okay. So she makes a comment. Amrale, she says to him, Chasrei leganva nafshe l'shlomenokit. When a robber has got nothing to steal, so that he becomes a nice, quiet person. Meaning, sure, now that you cannot have relations, you're getting too old, you can't have relations with anybody. That's why you're not interested in marrying me. Amar Lahu, Kar'u li lebasheva. David HaMelech says, I will prove to you that that is not the reason why. Call Basheva in here. Ksiv, and the pasuk says, Vatavo Basheva LaMelech v'achadara, that Basheva came to the king into his private chambers. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav Yehuda and Rav, Ba'osa Shah, at that time, Kincha Basheva b'shoshes mapos. They had relations 13 times. So David HaMelech was clearly capable. That was not the concern. David HaMelech was no, how do we know 13 times? Because there are 13 words in that pasuk. So therefore it indicates that David HaMelech was capable of having relations. He was withholding himself from having relations with her because he did not want to marry her, because he was refusing to violate the 18-wife rule. So that's the answer. Is what was the services rendered? Up until a certain point, right? And he was refusing to get further involved. Amar Rav Shimon bar Abba, Shimon bar Abba says, Bo u're'ei kamakoshin gerushin. Go take a look. Now this shows us something. Why did David HaMelech just divorce one of his wives? Right? So the answer is, it shows how sad or how bad we look upon divorce. That is not the ideal situation. Shari David HaMelech hitiru liyachid v'litiru ligarish. David HaMelech would rather have, under his circumstances where he had health conditions, to permit himself the prohibitions of the rabbinic prohibitions of yichud that were in effect here, rather than divorce one of his wives. That was the preference.
He was looking for someone to take care of him too, right?
Yes.
Because he could have a rotary system with his other 18, right?
That's a good question. Why none of the other 18 wives were able to warm him up, right? It's a good question. That I don't have an answer to.
Not that I've had that issue myself, so I don't know.
Right. So
this is also very strange.
Yes.
What he does to prove that he can.
Yes.
I mean, it's not dignified.
I'll disagree.
It's not dignifying for a king to do that. That's the least of it. But
Right. Yes. Right. David HaMelech. Yeah. Okay. But. Amar Rabbi Eliezer. Eliezer says, "Kol megarish es ishto rishona." Anybody divorces his first wife, afil mizbeach morid olav demos. Even the altar sheds tears for him. Shnemas pasuk says, "V'zos shenis tasuk sus demaah es mizbeach Hashem b'chi va'anaka." And this also will do that the tears will fall from the altar with crying and sighing. Me'ein od panos el hamincha, that it will no longer be able to turn towards your offerings. V'lakachvas ratzon miyadchem, and take the willing offerings from your hands. The pasuk says,
how does Mizbeach shed tears?
it's a good question. I think it's figurative, right? Not literal. The pasuk says, "V'amartem al ma," and you'll say, "Why is this?" Al ki Hashem he'id beincho beineishes nerecha, because Hashem is testifying about the relationship that you had between you and the wife of your youth, Asher tabag daba, that you were treacherous towards her, v'hi chavrescha, and she was your beloved, ve'eshes brisecha, and the wife of your youth. So and of Amar Rabbi Yochanan v'Itim Rabbi Elazar ein ishto shel adam mesa ela imkein mevakshim imenu mamon. Now we're going to deal with some of these relationship breaking situations, circumstances, how sad they are. A person doesn't die except if somebody seeks a repayment. Let's say you stole something and somebody turns and says, now you got to give it back, and you don't have ve'enlo, you have nothing to repay. That is a reason why somebody's wife could die. Shnamar pasuk says, ve'en lecha l'shalim lama yikach mishkavcha mitachtecha. If you've got nothing to pay, why should your bed be taken from among you? V'amar Rabbi Yochanan kol adam shemesa ishto rishona. Anybody whose first wife dies, ki'ilu charav beis hamikdash biyamav. It's like the beis hamikdash was destroyed in his days. Shnamar pasuk says, ben adam hinei lokech mimcha es machmar einecha. Human being or son of man, you are it's being taken from you, the desire of your eyes, b'magefa, in a plague. Lo tispod, will you not mourn? V'lo tivken, will you not cry? V'lo tavod dimasecha, and will your eyes not cry? Ksiv. Pasuk says, "V'adaber olam ba'boker," and I spoke to the nation in the morning. V'tamas ishti, my wife died be'erev at night. Uksiv hineni mechal es mikdashi ge'onu uschem. I am desecrating the temple, which is your great might, machmad einechem, and the desire of your eyes.
What do you mean when your first wife dies, like a destruction of the temple?
Because that is the sadness, right? There's the equivalence of the sadness, right? That is how. That's the way the pasuk is describing. that this was, I think, by a pasuk by Yechezkel, that there was a he was is it Yechezkel Yutas? Yes, by Yechezkel he was told to get married, and then his wife dies. In order to be able to show him the mourning, the significance of the mourning, he was used as a human model for the mourning of the Beis Hamikdash. Amar Rabbi Rabbi Alexandri says, "Call them Shemesa Ishto b'yamav." Anybody whose wife dies during his days, Olam choshech ba'ado. The world becomes dark for him. Shinam Rasik says, "Or choshech ba'alo v'nero alav yadecha." Rabbi Yossi ben Chanina, Rabbi Yossi ben Chanina says, "Psi osav miskatzros." His steps become small. Shinam Pasuk says, "Yitzrod tzadei ono." And Rabbi Avo Amar Rabbi Avo says, "Atzasono felas." His advice, his personal advice, fails himself, meaning his just can't think straight. Shinam Pasuk says, "Vatashricheu atzaso." His advice gets taken away from him. Amar Rabbi Barachana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Kasha lezug lezavgam kikriyas yamsuf. It is hard to make shiduchim like the splitting of the sea. Shenamar, as the pasuk says, is one of two places that the Gemara is mentioned. Okay. So the pasuk says, Elohim moshiv yichidim beisa. Hashem brings individuals to his house. Motzi asirim bekushros, and he takes out the tied up ones at their appointed times. Ini, is that true? I'm going to skip the parentheses. Ini, is that true? V'hamar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Arbaim yom kodem yitzir savlad bas kol yotzeis v'omeres bas ploni ploni. How hard could it be? After all, 40 days before a child is created, a heavenly voice goes out and says, so-and-so is going to marry so-and-so. So it's already set up. Why is it so complicated? Lokash, it's not a contradiction. Hal bezivik rishon, hal bezivik sheni. It depends on whether it's your first match or your second match. And there are many interpretations of what exactly that means. But at least on the surface, simple level of this Gemara, to be able to keep moving, it is first wife versus second wife, that you get an established zivug that you are assigned to before you're born, and then eventually if you need subsequent marriage, this becomes more difficult, which is in the flow of this Gemara, dealing with the sadness of losing one's original wife. There's a replacement for everything in life except the wife of your youth. Shenamar, as the pasuk says, the wife of your youth, if she becomes removed, right, it cannot be replaced. Masnila Rav Yehuda Rav Yitzchak Brei Rav. Just lost the place. Rav Yehuda taught this to Rav Yitzchak, his son. Ein adamoti koras ruach ela miishto rishon. A person cannot get a nice sense of calm except from his first wife. Shemar says, "Yehi mekorcha baruch." Your springs should be, your sources should be blessed. V'samech meishas yunurecha, and you will be made joyful from the wife of your youth. So Amar Lo Kegon Man. So his son asked him, like, who's that like? What kind of situation are we talking about? Amar Lo Kegon Imcha. He says, like your mom. Oh, that's nice. You could use that one nice. Ini, is that true? V'ha Mikre Rabbi Yehuda Rav Yitzchak. But is that true? Because there was another time that Rav Yehuda said to Rav Yitzchak, his son, Bray, Motzi Ani Mar Mimoves. Pasuk says, I have found something more bitter than death. Es ha'isha, a woman, asher hi mitzudim v'charamim, right? She is seeking to ensnare and entrap. So Amar Lo Kegon Man, he says, who's that like? Amar Lo Kegon Imcha, he says, like your mom. So Miskif, so he explains
the original mama jokes.
That's right.
We're sorry.
He says Miskif Tekifa. So we explained that she was a very strong-willed woman, Ibure Me'avra B'milah, but she was also very forgiving at the same time. And so Mefarshim explained that her nature was to be one that was very harsh and very difficult, but she was able, because she was a big tzaddikas, to control herself, and therefore he had a very fulfilling marriage with her. And so that was his comment to his son, that although your mother has a very strong will to her, nevertheless, because of her personal character and the way that she's able to be a good wife, so we've had a great relationship. Rav Shmuel Bar Unya says, Mishmei Rav, Isha golem hi ve'ena kores as bris elamisha asa kli. A woman is a unformed utensil, and she does not become a she does not become sealed or assigned to the one other than the one that makes her into a utensil, into a vessel. Because she's Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Ki bo alecha osech Hashem tzvakos shemo, in the parallel of the relationship between a husband and wife, Hashem and Bnei Yisrael are compared to that. And it says in the pasuk in Yeshaya that the one who is your husband makes you into who you are, makes you into a utensil. Just as a husband, when he has relations with his wife, makes her into somebody who is able to have children, so too, and so therefore she gets attached to her spouse, so too that's the way we have a relationship with Hashem. Tana, we learn, Ein ish meis ela li ishto. A man is not dead except to his wife, meaning she's the one who feels it more than anybody else. Vein isha mesa el lebal, and a wife is felt, the loss of a wife is felt by her husband. Ein ish mes el ishto, Shemara's pasuk says, vayamas Elimelech ish Nami, the husband Elimelech, the husband of Nami, died. Ve'ein isha, and it says, what do you mean? He died. The fact that he died is to everybody. So the point is that because she was Nami's husband, she felt it more severely than anybody else. Vein isha mesa el lebal, Shenemar vani beboy mi padan mesa alay Rachel. In last week's parsha, we had Yaakov comment that Rachel died as I was coming into Padan Aram. What do you mean she died to me? She died to everybody. The answer is husband feels it more severely, more acutely than anybody else. Okay, then Pasuk says, Ein roin oso. We're not allowed to see the king while he's getting a haircut. So Tan Rabbanan Melch Mistaper B'chol Yom. A king gets a haircut every day. Right? It's got to be his best.
Disrespectful for the king?
Apparently it's disrespectful to watch him get a haircut. Okay. So he's got to get a haircut every day. Kohen Gadol, mayor of Shabbos, or Shabbos. Kohen Gadol gets a haircut every single week. Kohen Hedyot, a regular Kohen, Echad l'shloshim yom, once every 30 days. Melech mistaper b'chol yom. How do you know the king gets a haircut every day? Shnamar pasuk says, Melech b'yafyo techazena inecha. A king has to look his best. He has to always look his best to your eyes.
He gets a haircut every day, which means he'll be bald.
No, he doesn't cut further, right? He just keeps it perfectly trim at the exact proper length, right? Whatever grew between this yesterday and today, that's what gets trimmed. But he always looks like he's perfectly trimmed. Kohen Gadol, mayor of Shabbos, the Kohen Gadol gets a haircut once a week. Amar of Shmuel bar Nachman. Shmuel Nachman says, Rabbi Yochanan, Hol mishmaros mischachos. Kohen, so because the new mishmar, the new group of Kohanim comes in every week. So the Kohen's got to be ready. He's got to look his best when they come in. So he gets his haircut in order to look his best when they arrive. Kohen Hedyot, a regular Kohen Echad l'shloshim yom, once every 30 days. Tichsiv, as the pasuk says, V'rosham lo yigalechu, that their heads you should not shave. Ufera lo yishlachu, and it should not grow long. Kasom yichsamu es roshehem, they should trim their hair. The Yolif, and now it says there that talking about what the Kohen can't do is he can't grow it long. Pera. What is pera? The Yolif pera mean nazir. The word pera comes up by a nazir. Ksiv Hach, it says here, pera lo yishalechu. You're not allowed to. The Kohen can't let his hair grow pera or wild. Ksiv Hasim, it says by the nazir gadol pera say rosho. He allows his hair to grow pera wild. The nazir is not allowed to trim his hair. And how long does it take for your hair to grow pera? Malaholan shloshim afkan shloshim. The hair. The Nazir is not allowed to cut his hair for 30 days. So just like a Nazir is not allowed to cut his hair for 30 days, that's how it becomes Pera. So too, a Kohen who allows his hair to grow for 30 days becomes Pera, and that's what's not allowed.
Nazir, it would take multiple years for his hair to go that long.
Every 30 days. That Nazir is 30 days. It doesn't have to get that long. How long a Nazir's hair has to get? It's just long. He's just not allowed to cut it for 30 days.
So when it says a Kohen Hedyot Echad Shloshim Yom,
yep.
It means within 30 days.
Within 30 days,
right.
Yes. One time every. Right. I don't think there's any prohibition of him getting extra haircuts, right?
Right. No, because it said 30 days is considered like a Nazir, so it has to be actually less than.
Oh, so
good. Pachos Shloshim.
Gemara's next question. Good question.
Right.
Hang on, that was a good one. That by the way, because I didn't that one. It's very good. Okay, good. Utzna Nami.
That means you're resting.
I like that one. I'm very impressed. Utzna Nami. We learned a Mishnah also. Stam Nazir Shloshim Yom. Plain Nazir is 30 days. The Hasamino. And how do we know a Nazir is 30 days? Amar Rav Masna, Domar Krol, Rav Nasa says, the pasuk says, Kadosh Yeh, and it says he should be holy. The Gematria Tlosin, the Gematria of Yeh is 30. So therefore, that's how you know Nazir is 30 days, and hence Kohen has to get his haircut within 30 days. Amar Amar le Rav Papa la Abaye. Rav Papa says to Abaye, Ema lo lirbu klau. What are you talking about? He has Brian Schiffman's question. He says, that's what happens when you sponsor Daf Yomi, right? It just comes. He says, that means that the Kohen can't let it grow at all. He says it can't be a para, so therefore can't be more than 30 days, but it has to be cut within that. Samar le iksiv lo yishachu pera kedarmar. If it said, you're right, he cannot let it grow for 30 days. You're right. Hashksiv u pera. It means it can't grow and it can't. And it says and wild, meaning pera lehave. It can grow to 30. 30 is allowed. Pera is allowed, but shluchi lo yishlich lo lishalchu. But more than that is what is prohibited. So you're right. As you said, it should be within 30. Should not be allowed. But really, because of there's an extra pachos, right, less than 30. So therefore, it says no. The extra vav tells me pera is allowed. Upera is what's not allowed. The extra is not allowed. Ihachi, if that's true, so hayid nanami. So if that's true, then why is that not the case nowadays? Why are we see sometimes kohanim let their hair grow a little bit longer? I will admit, sometimes I do not cut my hair for a little bit more than 30 days. Dumya deyayin, because the case of Kohen cutting his hair should be similar to the Kohen drinking wine. Ma yayin bisman biyahu da'aser, shel bisman biyah shari. So the answer is the same thing as wine. A Kohen can drink wine. He's just not allowed to drink wine when he goes into the Beis Hamikdash. That's what's not allowed. Af prui rosh bisman biyah aser. So too, having long hair is only prohibited when you go to work in the Beis Hamikdash.
If you go to the Beis Hamikdash on Shabbos, what do you make kiddush on?
If you go to the Beis Hamikdash, I guess you cannot do the service, right? So you'd have to do the service, then leave and make kiddush, right? You'd have to do the service first, right? You'd have that because that was shul, right? You do the korban tamid, right? Or the korbanos were done in the morning, right? So shablo bisman bia shari, but when it's not time to come into the Beis Hamikdash, that is permissible. V'yayin shlo bisman bia shari. 1 second, is that true? You're suggesting that a Kohen can drink wine when it's not time to go into the Beis Hamikdash. V'atanya, we're going to Brisa. Rabbi says, Omer ani kohanim asurim l'shtos yain li olam. Kohanim are always prohibited from drinking wine nowadays.
What's the reason?
Because nowadays the Beis Hamikdash could come out of the sky at any time, and we could be working the Beis Hamikdash tomorrow or right now. I guess nighttime we would be allowed to drink wine, but we would not be able to drink wine at 2:00 in the afternoon because the Beis Hamikdash will come out of Shemayim, and we've got to report for duty.
And Mashiach cannot come on Shabbos, could he?
So I was going to say that the times that Mashiach cannot comes, Yom Tov, Shabbos, nighttime. So those would be times I guess you could drink wine, right? But the times of when the Beis Hamikdash could fall out of the sky in the middle of the afternoon, Kohen can't have a glass of wine in the afternoon. Maybe you'll be called to service. However, Rabbi says the thing is, what am I supposed to do? Shetakanaso kalkalso, because the fix for this problem of not being able to drink wine is the sadness that we have of the fact that the Beis Hamikdash has been delayed and rebuilt. And in practice nowadays, Kohanim have started to drink wine because it has been so long. We've been waiting for the Beis Hamikdash. We've just not been accustomed to treating it as though it could happen at any moment. So Rabbi says that a Kohen can drink wine nowadays. Rabbi says, "Kaman shasikani chamra ha'idna." So who is it that holds that? What is? We see that Kohanim are drinking wine. Whose opinion is that? That's Rebbe. That's Rebbe's opinion. He says now because it's been so long, the Kohanim are drinking wine. Miklal derabanan asri. That means the Rabbanan who disagree with Rebbe are saying you're not allowed to drink wine. Okay, that means even though there's no Beis Hamikdash right now, Kohanim are not allowed to drink wine. Maybe you'll get called to service. So therefore, why is it that you also should also make sure that your hair is cut and ready, because you could be called to service according to the Rabbanan. If you're going to be called
and nicely combed.
Well, combed you could so nicely combed would be good.
Isn't that one of the animamim? I mean, that's I'm crazy. No, it's not one of the.
Yes, bechol yom sheyavo. Every day could come. Mashiach could come, right?
So,
but that's Mashiach. Right. But the Beis Hamikdash will actually fall out of the sky. That's an extra step, right?
Right. Yeah.
So,
is this after Purim, by the way? Was this written before Purim or after Purim?
This all is the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. This is Rebbe's time. So it's after the Purim story, right? So the question is, what happens on Purim? Can a Kohen on Purim? It would indeed correct. According to the Rabbanan, maybe the Kohanim might have a difficulty drinking wine on Purim, even, right? Because that would be the overarching problem would be that you have to be ready, right? Be prepared. I used to, when I was a teacher, when I was a 6th grade Rebbe, I used to grow my thumbnail long, because if you need the thumbnail for Malika, Yeah. So I used to have that thumbnail on. I stopped because my wife thought it was disgusting. So I was not. She took priority, but I did, and I would because this Gemara.
Designated driver, too.
That's exactly. Yeah. So now. There, the reason why we can't have anybody Kohanim drinking wine is because the Beis HaMikdash will be immediately rebuilt, and we're going to need a Kohen ready to do service, and we won't have. So we're going to have the same problem with haircuts, right? If the Kohen doesn't have a haircut, we're going to need a Kohen, and he's not going to have a haircut. So the answer is, when it comes to haircuts, the answer is, Beis HaMikdash will fall out of the sky, Kohen will get a haircut. Show up 10 minutes from now, right? He'll be ready to go. What's the big deal? He gets a quick haircut and shows. So then, but when it comes to drinking wine, you're gonna be stuck. So he says, "Hasam nami afshar denayim port tavayil." So the guy take a quick nap, right? Sleep for 10 minutes, and then he'll be ready to go. Dama Ravacha, as Ravacha says, derech mil v'sheina kolshu mafigin asayayin. All you got to do in order to stop being drunk is you got to wait the amount of time it takes to walk a meal, which is about 18 minutes, and then you got to take a quick nap of any amount, and then you're good to go. So, didn't we say about Amar of Nachman, Amar of Ravua? Lo shanel shesasa k'dei revius. That's only if you drink a small amount. That's a revius. If you drink a small amount of wine, 4 ounces of wine, then that will solve your problem. Aval yoser k'dei revius. Correct. If you're going to drink if you're going to drink more than a revius, kol shekain the derech torah sobeshena mishar karto. Then walking it off and sleeping makes it worse, right? Because you can walk it makes you all dizzy, and sleeping it also will make you all confused, and so it doesn't help at all. So there's no way that you're going to have to wait that one out. Therefore, that's why haircuts you don't have to worry about haircuts bisman hazeh, but you do have to worry about drinking bisman hazeh, right? According to those opinions that say you do have to worry about that.
So according to this, there is no building of Bet HaMikdash.
Correct. It just comes in. It's the way it sounds like it's immediate, right? It's going to be right there. Right. Rav Ashi Amar Shesuya Yayin Demachli Avoda Gazer B'hu Rabbanan. The answer is another answer. When it comes to drinking, the reason why that was more prohibited, or we were more concerned about that, is because if you serve in the Beis HaMikdash and you have drunk wine, then the avoda is inadmissible, right? Then the avoda is no good. However, Puri Rosh de lo machli avoda lo gazer b'hu Rabbanan. Therefore, the rabbi said, when it comes to wine, Gzeira d'Rabbanan, don't drink wine because we're concerned that you might go into the Beis HaMikdash, do the service, and then that'll be no good. However, when it comes to the haircut, if you forget, the Beis HaMikdash comes, you go running in to do the Beis HaMikdash avoda, and you don't get your haircut, but the avoda is still good. So therefore, there was no reason for the Rabbanan to make a rule saying you had to always walk around with your haircut.
Aren't there so many other steps? Like, first of all, every Kohen is
Tameh.
Now.
Okay, so go right into
Duma. You have to make the ashes by time. You got time to sober up.
That's it. You'll figure it out, right? Well, I was going to say. That's why I drink wine a little bit. So I was just saying, right? Meisvei. So he asked a fine question. Ve'elu she b'misa. These are the people who get a death penalty for serving inappropriately in the Beis HaMikdash.
Like one of the Kohen Gadol's kids, sons, went to the Kodesh Kodashim unannounced. And without permission, he got killed right there.
Yes, that is true. I can't go in. So now, these are the ones who get misa, service, for serving the Beis HaMikdash. Prui Rosh, those who have their hair grow long, v'shasuya yayin, and they drink wine. So bishlam v'shasuya yayin dichsev. I understand the fact that they drink wine. The pasuk says, yayin v'sheichar al teisht. You cannot drink any wine. Ato v'necha v'lo tamusu. You or your children, and you will not die. Ela prui Rosh minolan. How do I know that if you have your hair long, also the iskish shasuya yayin li prui Rosh, because we're going to compare. Pasuk is going to compare drinking wine to having your hair grow long. The Pasuk says,
how's that?
Here's what it says. Pasuk says, "V'rosham lo yigalechu." You should not cut your hair or shave. Right? Can't shave it bald. V'pera lo yishalechu, and you cannot let it grow long. And then right after it says, "V'yayin lo yishtu," and you should not drink wine. Mashisu yayin b'misa. So therefore, by the juxtaposition, that's a good word, juxtaposition of these two concepts together, we learn that just as if you drink wine and go serve in the Beis HaMikdash, you're chayav misa b'dei shemayim, af prui rosh b'misa also, even though the service is not invalidated, if you go into the Beis HaMikdash and you serve with long hair, so you're also misa. Now, umina...
Is there any link to Nazir at all?
We did link to Nazir at the beginning, yeah, we did link to Nazir. The 30 days came from Nazir, that's right. So you're... Mechavim, right? And we have to watch the beginning part of the shiur though. But you're Mechavim. That's exactly right. There is a one-to-one connection essentially. Yep. Now, if drinking wine ruins the service, so then we should also presume if the two things are connected. So why did you presume that coming in with your hair long isn't going to ruin the service, right? We connected drinking wine to coming in with your hair long, so maybe the two things are connected as well, ruining the service. Kasha, that's a good question. Good question why we don't say that. Okay. Amar le Ravina Rav Ashi. Ravina says to Rav Ashi, Hi ad delo osi Yechezkel man amra. So all of these psukim about not growing your hair long and doing the service and all that comes from psukim in Yechezkel. So that means that before Yechezkel, Kohanim could go into the Beis HaMikdash and serve with their hair long, right? Is that what we're saying? Until Yechezkel came and told us we can't, we could. So what's going on there? So Ulatamech, wait a second. According to what you're saying, Hadamar of Chisda, Davar Zeh, Mitors Moshe Rabbeinu Lulamanu Achaba Yechezkel Veli Madnu. If that is the case, so then we have another time that Rav Chisda said, and the case was by a Kohen who is an Orel, Kohen who is not circumcised. He can't do the avodah.
How's the Yid if he's not circumcised?
Because we could wind up with a circumstance where his older brothers died during their circumcisions. And so after two older brothers have died during circumcisions, then you don't give the next child a circumcision, right?
Would you still be considered as a Yid? Because when you get circumcised, the connection between you and Hashem.
So therefore, this is the problem. So now this Kohen can't get a circumcision because it's life and death, but now he's invalid to doing the avodah.
Would he still be considered as a Yid though?
Yes. He just can't do things like serve in the Beis HaMikdash. So now, Yechezkel says that. That's a pasuk in Yechezkel. So what? Before Yechezkel said that it was allowed? So the answer is, because it says, as Yechezkel says, Kol ben nechar arel leiv arel basar lo yavo el mikdashi l'charseni. Anybody who has uncircumcised can't come to the Beis HaMikdash in order to serve me. So Adelo ba Yechezkel man amro. Who said this before Yechezkel showed up? Ella gemar gmirla. It was a halacha l'Moshe miSinai. Vas Yechezkel va'asamcha akra. Yechezkel came and wrote it down. Right, we had it as a halacha l'Moshe miSinai before that. Hachinami gemar gmirla. So too, this rule about the haircut was something that was a halacha l'Moshe miSinai before Yechezkel. Yechezkel came and wrote it down. Okay, so now, my kasom yechasmu as rosham. So what does this mean that they had to cut their hair? So the definition of this, cutting your hair, I think art school uses the word tresses. I looked it up. What is, because I go translating the psukim is a little difficult. So I looked up yechasmu. What does that mean? It's the tresses. Tresses are hair curls, I think. So now, Tana, so we learned, Kemind Tisporis Lulinus. They took a special haircut called the Lulinus haircut.
What's Lulinus?
Good question. My Tisporis Lulinus. What is a Lulinus haircut? Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. Rav Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel, Tisporta Yechida. It is a special kind of haircut that the Mefarshim explain. Well, I'm not sure if, this does say right now. Hey Chidami, how does it work? Amar Rav Ashi, Rosh Shazeh B'tzad Ikaro Shazeh. Each hair was cut perfect length so that it would cover the head and touch the base of the next hair, so that it was exactly short enough so that your whole head looked like it had hair on it. There was no bald spots showing through, but no more than that. So every hair was cut the perfect length to meet the root of the next hair, which I guess is individualized. You can't like set your shaver for that size, right? That's going to be individualized for the person and their hair follicle status. So, Alzeh Shalu as Rebbe. They asked Rebbe this question: Ezu Tispor Kohen Gadol. What does the haircut of the Kohen Gadol look like? Amar Lan, he said to him, Tzuru mi Tispor Shel Ben Elosha. Take a look at the haircut that Ben Elosha has. Tanya, we learned in a brayso, Rebbe Yomer Lo Alchinam Pizar Ben Elosha Esma Osav, that Elisha did not spend his money unwisely for nothing. He went out and got this expensive haircut for a reason. The whole purpose was he wanted to show everybody this amazing haircut of the Kohen Gadol, so he spent a lot of money and got some barber to spend some time on it. Hadron Allah Kohen Gadol, and I didn't bring my Mesivta for my next volume, so I got my regular Gemara. But we move on to the next.
Kohen Gadol.
The question is, would there be a bald, like if he was bald naturally, I don't think that invalidates him, right? You just right? The haircut.
If each person gets, eventually each people get bald spots naturally.
Yeah, so I don't think that is a mum, right? I don't think
Is
so.
alopecia considered a mum?
Huh?
Like real alopecia. Like I know.
I
bald.
know, yeah. So that's
Is that a mum?
It might be because it looks strange. I would have to look up. We'll see those halachos and find out. But I'm not sure because it could be anything that looks unusual is something that is a mum. Okay, I'm sorry I was going fast, but I'm trying to move on the pace to be able to catch up a little bit. So we are in Chaf Gimel Amid Aleph. Dini Mamanis B'Shlosha. We said in the first parak that judging laws of monetary need 3 judges. How does it work? How do you get 3 judges? Zebor Echad. One chooses one. One chooses one, Ushneim Borin Lohen Od Echad, and one chooses, and then the 2 of them, whoever the 2 of them are, the 2 litigants, or the 2 of whatever they chose in the first place. Rashi explains, the first one chooses one based in, the second one chooses another based in, and then they choose together a third based in. Different That's what Rameir says.
Is it within the same city, or
this is in other words, you're asking where we get all these based ins from?
Yeah.
We're going to ask that in the Gemara, right? Well, I need all these based ins here. So that's what Rameir says. V'cham and say, Shnei Dayanin Borin Lahen Od Echad. 2 judges choose themselves one more. Right, that's what happens. Zeh posel daino shel zeh, v'zeh posel shel daino shel zeh. Div Rameir says that each of the litigants can invalidate the judge of the other one. As we're going to ask the question, what kind of judge are we talking about? How do you invalidate another person's judge? What he picked? The Chacham said, Emasai, when is that? Bisman shemevi alehen raya shein kroven apsulim. That's only if you can bring some kind of proof that the judge is invalid because he's a relative or he's puzzle. Avlim hayuk sheirinu mumchim. But if the judge was perfectly valid or they were an expert judges, mipi based in by being established to be an expert by another previous court, eno yachol leposlon, he cannot invalidate them. We're going to point out that if that is what the Chachamim are saying, that means Rabbi Meir sounds like you can invalidate a judge despite the fact that he's an expert judge. And we're going to ask that question. Zeh posel edav shel zeh, v'zeh posel edav shel zeh. Divrei Meir. Meir says that each side can invalidate the other side's witnesses. That's going to be a question. How do you invalidate? You just say, I don't like your witness? So how does that work, right? That would be nice. You can just get rid of the other guy's witness.
We did document from your witness.
So we're going to say, when is that? Bisman shemevi alein raya. You have to bring some kind of proof against them. Shein kroven opsulin, that they are relatives or they're invalid. Aval im hayuk sherin, if the witnesses are fine, enu yachol leposlon, you cannot invalidate them. Again, bringing the question that it sounds like Rabbi Meir is holding, despite the fact that the witnesses are perfectly valid, one guy can invalidate the other witness. So we're going to see that we've got some problems with this Mishnah. Just reading the Mishnah, it's a very difficult Mishnah to understand. Says the
coming up.
Yes, we're going to have a lot of different ways of viewing this Mishnah. Says the Gemara, "My zebor lo echad v'zebor lo echad bitlosa sagi." What does that mean? This guy chooses a based in, the other guy chooses a based in. All we need is 3 judges. How do we wind up with 9 judges here? We got this based in, that based in, and then they choose a third based in. That's like 9 judges. We only needed 3 judges. So Hachikamer, this is what it means. Keshazebor based in echad, when one of the litigants chooses a based in, v'zebor based in echad, and then the other guy chooses another based in. So then shnehen borul lahed od echad. Then they can each say, I don't want to go to the court that you chose. So then guy number 1 chooses, says, we'll choose this based in. The guy says, no, I don't like that based in. Okay, I'll choose this one, and then we get rid of that one. Then what happens is the 2 of them come together and they agree on a third based in that they can go to.
All 3 based-ins.
Well, they have to come together to judge something, right? So the question is, va'afilu love matzi ma'akev. Why should that be that each person can invalidate the other based in? I understand that if I am the plaintiff, right, I'm the one claiming, right, so then I get we said Malve Yodo Alyona, he has the upper hand. So I understand why he should be the one to be able to pick the base in. Why is it that the one who is the borrower should have the rights to be able to say, I don't want to go to your court? It's not your choice. You're the borrower, right? You've got to come. So why is that? Rabbi Elazar.
Maybe afraid that one of the judges is corrupt or whatever.
Well, you could be afraid all you want, but that doesn't give you the right to do it, right? You can't just. I mean, you're the borrower after all. Didn't Rabbi Elazar say Lo shanu ella mal malve, the one who has the upper hand, who can make the choice is the malva. Valove kofinosova don beiro. You can force him, and he's got to go to court in his city, right? He can't just say, I don't want to go to court in here. I would like to go to court someplace else. You can't do that. Kedama Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Yochanan explains, Barkos shebesuyah shanu. This is a case that we're dealing with. They had secular courts in Syria that were non-experts in halacha, and in that circumstance, we do allow even the borrower to say, I don't want to go to that court. If this person says, I'd like, for example, this guy says, I'd like to go to Canadian courts, right, and solve our dispute over money. So the lova can say, no, I don't want to do that. I don't trust that's not going to follow the halacha. I insist on going to a base he's entitled to. Hachanami barkos shebesuyah. That's what we're dealing with here. He has the right to say, I don't want to go to just these random secular courts. I want to be able to make sure that it goes to Beis Din.
Isn't that usher to go to a secular court?
Is it usher? It sounds like if the two of them agree to it, you can use it to mediate your rules. It sounds like, right? As long as the two agree. Right? What would be usher is if I go to a secular court, thereby forcing somebody else to go to the secular court because I insist on it, and then the court is going to enforce their rule on the person. That might be problematic, right? When we say it's because yes, generally we say we don't want two Jews going to a secular court. I think that's what it means. But from all the conversations that we've had, if any person if the two people agree to something, it seems like if they agree, then that should be fine. We're going to see you can agree to have any puzzle judge be your judge, right?
And even if you don't like what the Beis Din tells you.
That we're going to discuss later on, whether if you don't like what the Beis Din tells you, whether you can back out of it or not, right? At some point you go, oh, you know what? I said it was okay, but I changed my mind now that I've seen what the person has to say. Okay, so now, about mumchin, lo. But when it comes to, if there are expert judges, so then you're right, then the borrower can't turn them down. Rav Papa says, afilu tema mumchin. Rav Papa says, no, could even be a case where the borrower can turn down experts. Kagon, beidin Rav Huna ude Rav Chisda. It could be a circumstance like the basin of Rav Huna and Rav Chisda, that despite the fact that they were both in the same city, they both had courts in the same city. Rav Chisda was Rav Huna's student, so Tosfos points out that they didn't have their basins close enough that it would be a violation of what we learned, that you can't teach a halacha where your Rebbe is, so they had some kind of distance between them, but the courts were still in the same city, and so the point is that the Lova still has the right to say, he can't force the Malva to go to a different city. The Malva says, I want to be judged here in Toronto, and the Lova says, no, let's go to Montreal. You can't do that. That's not, but if there are two Beis Dins in the same city, or three Beis Dins in the same city, the Lova says, I want to go to this one, the Malva can say, no, let's go to another one. That would be okay. Because he says, what am I really, is it really such a trouble to you? Going to Beis Din, and they're expert Beis Dins. The all Bati Dinim are using the same halachos anyway. I just prefer this one. Okay? Tanan, we learned in a Mishnah. V'cham says, Shnei dayanim borin lahen od echad. Two judges are going, the two courts choose another one. V'isa kadaita kedam rinan, Beis Din. So if you're going to talk, if we are understanding this brisa to mean what we just said, it means that the first guy chooses a Beis Din, the second guy chooses a Beis Din. So then what does it say? This Beis Din chooses, and now we're choosing a third Beis Din. So then, Basar de Pasi Luhu Azlu Baru Luhu Beidin Acharini. 1 second. That means the first court was chosen. This guy said no, thank you. They chose the second Beis Din. The other guy said no, thank you. And now the two Beis Dins that are excluded from this case, now they get to pick where they go. Well, I mean, these two are the two ones that nobody relied on. Why do they get to pick? Ve'od, and furthermore, my zeborolo echad vezeborolo echad. What does it mean? This one is choosing one, and this one's choosing one. That doesn't sound like they're choosing a Beis Din. It sounds like they're choosing one. El lahachi kamar. He says this is the explanation. Keshezeborolo dayan echad vezeborolo dayan echad. One guy is going to choose. When one guy is going to choose one judge, and the other guy is going to choose one judge. Shneihen borin lahan od echad. Then the two judges are going. Then the two of them are going to get together and choose the third judge.
Yeah, but that's not how it reads. It reads that they're allowed to refuse. Right?
Right, doesn't say they refuse.
No. Oh, right? You're right. And then
we just said that it's that was the way we were reading it before, right?
I understand. Right.
So my shna davi hachi. Why do we do this? The first guy gets to pick one judge, the second guy's picking another judge. Why are we doing this? Amri Marov, they said in Eretz Yisrael, Mishmei the Reb Zir, and then Reb Zir mitok shezeh borah lo dayan echad, v'zeh borah lo dayan echad, u'shneim borah lehenod echad. Yeltza hadin lami. So since you're going to choose, this guy's going to choose one, this guy's going to choose one, and they're going to choose the third guy themselves together, then it's going to come out as a truthful law. Rashi explains that they're going to accept the law. They're going to say, I trusted this judge, right? I know the guy I picked was valid, and I picked 2 out of the 3 judges. So therefore, I know the case is valid. I'm going to follow the rule. Okay, so that's what that was.
Like jury selection.
That sounds like a jury selection process, yeah. The Chachamim say that no. So name of the Rabbi Yehuda kamifligi, Amarav kamifligi. Rabbi Yehuda, this says the Chachamim say that the 2 judges are going to pick the third one, right? According to Rabbi Meir, the 2 individuals, the litigants, are going to pick the third party, and according to the Chachamim, the 2 judges are going to pick the third party.
Are they allowed to? Because it seems like it's like competition.
How is it a competition? They're choosing their partner.
Oh.
Right, they're choosing their partner. So let's say this argument is what Rav Yehuda talks about in the name of Rav. Rav Yehuda saying Rav, somebody should not write their name on a contract unless they know who the other witnesses are. Why? Because they have a right to know. Because if the contract becomes invalidated because the witness that you signed with is invalid, it's a little bit of embarrassment to you. Because here it looks like your contract that you signed on didn't get considered to be valid. It sounds like there's that people didn't trust you, right? So therefore, you don't want to sign on something unless you know who it is. So Rabbi Meir, Leisley, Rabbi Yehuda Marav, Rabbi Meir says, we don't have to worry about such a thing. So therefore, the judges don't get to worry about who is the third judge on their beis din. Once you said, I want this guy, then the 2 litigants get together to pick the third guy. Well, what about the guys who are already on the court? Don't they get a say? No, you don't. Because it's not your problem who you're sitting on your court with. So V'Rabbanan Islu Rabbi Yehuda Marav, and the Rabbanan say, no, the rabbis, once they're selected to the beis din, they get a say in who they're going to sit with. Because they don't want to sit on a beis din with some third guy who they don't like. So no, that is not true. Dekuli Alma Islu Rav Yehuda Marav. Everybody agrees of the statement of Rav Yehuda Marav. V'das hadayonin kuli Alma pligi deba'inon. The argument is not whether you need the judge's consent, whether they have to consent to the third person. Ki pligi das bali dinin. Remeir said, Savar das bali dinin nami ba'inon. Of course you need the judges to agree. The question is, the argument between Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim is, do you also need the litigants to agree to the third judge? According to Rabbi Meir, the judges already agreed, and now the litigants get to say, okay, we agree to it too. For Rabbanan Savri das hadayanim ba'inon, das bali dinin lo ba'inon. And the Rabbanan say, once the judges say we pick the third guy, we don't care if the litigants like that third guy or not. Gufa. Let's talk about what we just said. I'm Rabbi Yehuda Marav. What you said in Rav. Eina idim chosman al shtar. The witnesses can't write on a contract unless they know who the other person is who's signing with them. Tanya nami we learn a brisa like that as well. Kach hayunikia hadas b'Yerushalayim osim. This is what the clean-minded people in Yerushalayim used to do. Lo yechosman al shtar elim kin yodim mi chosim, and they didn't sign any contracts unless they knew who was going to be signing with them. Lo yoshvim bedin elim kin yodim mi yoshim. They didn't sit on a court unless they knew who was going to be with them. Lo nichnasin besuda elim kin yodim mi mesim. They didn't go to a party unless they knew who was at that party with them. Zo posel daino. This one is going to be able to nullify the other one's judge. That was the next thing that Rabbi Meir says. One guy's going to be able to nullify the other guy's judge, and the first guy is. Now, call kimine de paisel daini. A guy could just get up and say, I don't like your judge. The guy's a judge that was selected. Why does he get to just knock him off? So Rabbi Yochanan bar Kos shebesurya shanu. We're dealing with judges of a secular court, of people who are not learned in Talmidei Chachamim. Ava mumchem lo. But you're right. If the guy was a legitimate rabbi who was an expert judge, they would not be able to throw him off.
It says here though, Zeh pasol dainu.
That's great. But it says Hamik Sefer. The next line says the Chachamim said that it's only can knock him off. The Chachamim's opinion is only if they are related or they are pasal. But if they were experts, based in from the beis din. Right. They wouldn't be. Right. Which means Rabbi Meir is holding that you can throw them off even if they're experts. So Hachi Kamer, this is what Rabbi Meir is trying to say. Aval. However, if they are kosher, Rabbi Meir says, that's what the Chachamim are saying, if they are kosher, they are as though they are experts. Mipi based in. They know Yachol you can't knock them off. But Rabbi Meir, of course, agrees that if they are legitimately experts, you can't throw them off. But what if they're not experts, right? They're just knowledgeable rabbis, but they have not been certified to be a judge. Then Rabbi Meir says, then you can't throw them off. The Chachamim say, once they are considered rabbis who are sherim, then they are like mumchim, and you cannot throw them off. That's how he explains it.
I thought you're supposed to be I thought you're supposed to be applied for a base then.
Yes, you're supposed to be certified, but we learned that you do not need to only, right?
These rabbis make the
Only for
wrong
Sanhedrin.
judgments.
So we learned before that if the mistake, if the mistake is something that is in a Mishnah level, then the judgment is not valid. If they made a mistake and it is a mistake which should have been something that the majority has already ruled against, they could be potentially personally liable, right? As we discussed, because they're not mumchim, so they could be personally liable to return the money. Tashma Amru Lo L'Remeir, they said to Remeir, Lo Kol Minush Posel Dayan Shem Mumchel Rabim. Not everybody can just invalidate a judge that is considered to be an expert by the populace, which sounds like that means Rabbi Meir is holding that, actually an expert judge can be invalidated. So Ema lo kol himinu posel dayan shehum chul rabim aleim. So it sounds like, as they're saying, because you're not allowed to just invalidate any judge that the majority of people, everybody decides is acceptable. Tanya Nami, we have a brayso that says like this also. Liolam posel v'holich ad shekabel olav based in shemum chul rabim. Divrei Meir. Meir says that you can invalidate any of the courts until you accept upon yourself a based in, unless they accept upon themselves a based in that is expert to the public. The person is considered to be expert and and regarded as certified. Divrei Meir says, "V'ha edim kim mumchim dami." But wait a second. What you're suggesting is that if they are certified and they are expert, then Rabbi Meir would not allow you to invalidate them. But one second, witnesses, they don't need any certification. So any witness who is a kosher witness is considered like as top as they come. That's like an expert judge. Right. So therefore, v'amar Meir, the next line in the Mishnah says, that even Meir allows you to knock off the other guy's witnesses. Right? We explained on that, Amar Reish Lakish explains, a holy person like Rabbi Meir would say such a thing, that a person could just knock off somebody else's witnesses. Chas v'sholom. Tanei edo. What it means in the Mishnah is you can knock off a guy's one witness. Right? If he has one witness, not two, you can't knock off the pair of witnesses. But if the guy's got one witness, then the other side can say, I'm not going to believe your one witness.
When the witness is working with the other witness,
if you're working with if one witness is working with another witness, you got two witnesses, right? We're talking about there's no other witness, just one witness. So now the question is, Edo lemai, what is the situation, the circumstance of this one witness? What?
It says ze pasol dayinu. It's plural.
Hang on, that's coming up. You're always to the next page.
Sorry.
Good question. Good question. The Gemara is going to ask that, right? It's a good thing I prepare, otherwise I wouldn't know how to answer questions. So that's it. So if we're talking about this is a case that we're talking about trying to get money out of a person, so Rahmana Pasley. So the Torah already told us the one witness is no good. They don't have to. I don't have to tell you your witness is no good. The Torah tells me one witness is not worth anything. If it's about an oath, so we said one witness can require somebody to take an oath, right? So then, so then this witness has complete believability. He is going to require that oath. There's nothing I can say to prevent it. Nothing can happen. So how does me protesting the one witness have any impact? Either it's valid or it's not valid. So liolam lemamon. So we're going to back to the circumstance that this is a case we're trying to take money away from somebody. And lo tzricha dekable al le kebetre. What happens is the guy said, I accept. You know what? Ruvain, he's so believable, whatever he says, I'll go with.
It's not like sarcasm, right?
And the other guy says, great, I'll do that too. We'll just trust Ruvain like two witnesses.
But that's not like sarcasm.
And Ruvain's going to come to court, and I say, I changed my mind. Yeah. Now that I can say I changed my mind, Rabbi Meir says, I'm allowed to back out. I can invalidate the witness. I'm the one who said that he was like, I was going to trust him. Now that I changed my mind, I backed out, so then I invalidate him. Right? The Chachamim say, no, you cannot. Once you've said that you're going to trust him, you got to go through with it. Okay, that's what's going on. So my Kamash Malon, so what is this coming to show me? Dematzi Haderbei. The Rabbi Meir is telling us that you can change your mind. You said you were going to trust Ruvain, now you change your mind. You can do that. Tanina, but we learned that in another Mishnah. The Mishnah is coming up. The next Mishnah on Chaf Dal is going to tell us that Neman Alai Abba, I am going to trust my father to be the judge. Neman Alai Avicha, I trust your father to be the judge. These are people who are not valid to be judges. But let's say your father's a big rabbi and I trust him. Okay, let's say I say that. So then, Naaman and Alai, Gimel Roy Bakar, or I'm going to trust 3 cattle ranchers, right? I don't know anything about halakha, but I'm going to trust them anyway. Rabbi Meir says, Yochel Lachzer Bo. Rabbi Meir says, you can change your mind. You don't have to go with that. If you you meet these cattle ranchers and go, you know what, I changed my mind. So, but Chacham say you cannot change your mind. That's the way that it is once you said it. The Amar of Dimi Bray to Rav Nachman. Rav Dimi said to Rav Nachman, Bray to Rav Yosef, the son of Rav Yosef. Kegon de Kable Alei Bechad. So the answer is that he accepted upon himself with this one witness. So tzricha, I need both cases, right? So he says this is a circumstance where he accepted these individuals as his singular one judge, meaning the father is not a valid judge. Nevertheless, if I accept and I say, even though he's my one judge, he's not even part of the rest of the basin, he's going to be the one judge, then that is still the argument.
I don't understand though, because he's not kasher if it's avicha.
That's correct. He's not kosher. But
So why could I be naaman?
This is what we're suggesting. We're suggesting that I can, if you and I have this is what we were discussing about secular courts or whatever it is. If you and I have an agreement, right,
Mm-hmm.
and we can agree that we're going to trust whatever Reuven says. He's one witness.
Right.
But
even
one
if it's
witness.
not
The Torah doesn't say one witness can be trusted,
Right.
but we agreed on it.
Right.
What if you and I have a disagreement and we say, you know what, your father's a great rabbi. Let's go ask him what the halacha is.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, your father can't be your judge, but I trust him. So can I do that? Yes. So even though he's not really a valid judge,
Right.
even though Reuven can't be we can agree between ourselves that we're going to trust it regardless.
So you can set your own terms.
You can set your own terms.
Let's flip
That's
a coin
correct.
and
Theoretically, flip a coin might be a bigger problem. We're going to say flipping a coin I don't
And
want
I
to go
can
with.
change my
You'll
mind.
see why in a few days.
And I could change my mind. Meaning,
I don't want to go with flipping a coin.
oh wait, just understand. I could change my mind after the fact. Like let's say.
That's the argument. So Rabbi Meir says you can change your mind after the fact.
Right.
I realized that was stupid. Why would I do that? I can go to a Beis Din and I'm going to trust your dad.
Right.
So, okay. So Rabbi Meir says I can change my mind. But the Chachamim say, no, you can't.
I mean, after the fact, the judgment's made.
Oh, so that's going to be a question. We're going to see when did that.
Right.
How
What's
long?
after the fact?
What is after the fact? That's
Right.
going to be a conversation when we get to Chaf Daled. Okay. So now we have said this same halacha twice that you can change your mind or not change your mind. It's an argument twice. Once about the witness, once about the judges, and the answer is we're going to need it in both cases. To tana abba vavich. When it comes to the judge, when it comes to your father and my father, behakami rabbanan delo matzi hadar be. Maybe that's where you can't change your mind mishum da abba vavich chazul yama, because your father and my father are people who could be valid judges for other people. So therefore, it makes sense that I can't change my mind because there really are good people. There's nothing wrong with them. But when we're going to agree that I'm going to take one guy as a witness, that doesn't work in anybody's case. So Module Rabbi Meir, they would agree to Rabbi Meir that you can change your mind. Ve'iyashmin and Baha, and if we had, or in the other case, Baha come Rabbi Meir, that's where Rabbi Meir says that you can change your mind in the circumstance where it's one witness of al-Behahi, Ema Modul Rabbanan, but as far as the case where the judge is your father or my father, they wouldn't be able to change their mind. So tzricha, so I could use both cases. So that's why we have to learn both here and there. Now, Ha Midi Ketani Reisha Daini V'Seifa A Dov Madaf Ketani. Now we have Brian's question. 1 second though. If you read the Mishnah, it says daino,
Right.
which is one judge, and then it says a dove, which is witnesses, plural. We are now trying to explain our Mishnah that's talking about a case where you're invalidating their one witness, or we accepted the one witness, but the Mishnah doesn't say one witness, the Mishnah says two witnesses. And if you're going to say that the Mishnah isn't being precise, the Mishnah is being precise because it talked about one judge, and now it's talking about two witnesses. So Amar Rav Elazar bebahu ve'acher leposlon. So what's going on here is the circumstances. It is two witnesses, but I am coming. You bring your witnesses. I come with my buddy, and we are going to be the two witnesses invalidating your two witnesses. That's what's going to happen. So it's two witnesses against two witnesses, but I'm one of my own two witnesses. Right. So the question is, kol kamine. No gabe so. What gives you the right to testify about the witnesses testifying about you? You are what's called nogea badavar. You are already involved in the case. Here comes two guys and say that I owe $100. So I get my friend, hey, isn't that guy an invalid witness? Yeah, well, you could be a valid witness about this, but I can't be. I'm testifying that the guy who's testifying against me is invalid. Why would I be allowed to do that?
We already said we can't be an aid to ourselves. We already said we can't be an aid for ourselves.
But I'm not testifying about myself here. I'm testifying about him.
Right.
But I can't testify about him either because I'm testifying about him, invalidating his testimony, which gets me off the hook. So I can't do that. So. Amar of Acha Breder of Ika Kigon Shekara Alav Ir. So the answer is no. He's not. I am getting another guy, and I'm testifying about those witnesses, but I'm not testifying that they're lying in this case. I'm testifying that they are invalid witnesses. So demai, what makes them invalid? Let's say we're testifying that he's a thief. Right? So he steals, he's a thief, therefore he's not a valid witness. I can't do that. How can we testify about him that he's a thief? I'm invalidating his testimony, which is about me. I can't do that.
You have to bring other witnesses.
I have to bring other witnesses. I can't do it myself. Ella mishpacha. Rather, no, here's what I'm doing. I come with another witness. I'm not testifying about him at all. I testify that he is invalid as a witness because he is related to me somehow. Or he's related to the other guy. Isn't he your second cousin or something? So now that he's related, so now he can't testify for you.
That's considered craving.
Well, second cousin is a bad example, right? He's your brother, right? Isn't he your brother? I testify. So I can. I'm not testifying anything about him. There's nothing wrong about him. His testimony could be fine. I'm just testifying that he can't be a witness in this case based on his relationship or some other problem. He's an eved. So therefore, he can't testify. His father was an eved, right? That's what he testified. His father's an eved, which makes him an eved, which makes him not able to testify. Okay, so Rabbi Meir holds Hani amishpacha k'masadi ve'ihu mimela kapasel. The Rabbi Meir says I can testify that way. Why? Because even though I'm testifying and I only have one guy with me, I'm not testifying about him. That's not my testimony. I'm testifying about his family. So testifying about his family is acceptable. As a consequence of my testimony about his family, I've invalidated him. That's true. But Rabbi Meir says that's okay because I'm not directly testifying. It's a step removed. And the Rabbanan Savri sof no gebeidu sohu. That in the end, you are testifying about him. We're going to have to stop here because it's 9:30.
Yeah,
but